Hey everyone, Sycra here, and welcome to another episode of Pointy Chins, where I take you on my journey to become a better artist, and hopefully I'll be able to share some insights with you on things that could help you in your journey. So this episode is called Marker Mayhem because I got my first set of Copic markers. Before I was always using touch markers, and I think they're both pretty similar, so I don't know. But anyway, so picking up from the last episode, here's some more side views with this strange, pointy, triangular shape to describe the hips. And I kind of liked it, but the proportions are weird. I like this figure, and it reminds me of Ryuko from Kill la Kill. And this one I do not like. I do not like the proportions. And this one I kind of do like, but its proportions are very, very exaggerated. Like usually from the top of the head to the bottom of the crotch is the same as from the bottom of the crotch to the bottom of the feet. So I suppose if she was normal proportion, she would end around her knees. But no, she keeps going. And then I like this hair thing. It's pretty cool. And then I did this lady who was very concave, but trying a different body type, because I do a lot of these type of body types, so trying out different body types, and she could probably poke someone's eyes out with those. So, moving on. Some more. I tried this thing where I just outlined where the shadows would go, and then I filled them, because I'm just experimenting, like, what can I do with a marker now? What does it offer me? And what it offers is, first of all, just tone, because I'm using pens, so tone is only really achievable through hatching, like here, see, hatching, and some cross-hatching. But it gives you that, it gives you tone, and the other thing it gives you is this, which is, see here, it lets you block out the figure, and so you can focus much more on just the silhouette. So this figure, I don't know what he's doing, but he's got a bird on his elbow. And I wanted to try different poses and get better with silhouettes. And here's some just eyes and seeing, well, okay, so what can a marker help me achieve now that I have another value at my disposal? And well, you can have highlights now because you can do this. So yeah. So blocking out the shapes and focusing more on the silhouette. Now these didn't work. They weren't successful, but it's, again, experimentation. And then here what I was doing is experimenting with children, and that probably doesn't sound very good, but no, drawing children. Experimenting with drawing children, and see here some weird pigtails that go up instead of down, and some poses, and again with the marker, like, oh, because I have a marker I can do stripes now, cool, and I can fill in pants and hair. That is amazing. And I did some more stuff here, and I was thinking about this, like just a shape, and trying to fold that shape. And so just some more experimental stuff. I quite like this figure, though it's much more stylized and exaggerated. And then this was very interesting because what I did is I drew this little kid, this baby, and then I wanted to age him and go in both directions. So the baby's ambiguous. It could be a male or a female. You don't really know. So it's like, okay, well, what if it turned into a boy? How would he... or what if it was a boy? How would he age? And what if it was a girl? And how would she age? And I tried to keep it consistent with these hairstyles. And I wanted it to be the same character, but clearly I failed at that. Because there's a lot of things that are just really wrong. Like, look, in this one, she looks very wide. Her face is very wide and somewhat more Chinese, maybe. And then this is like, I don't know, more westernized, and this one, it's just like, okay, so I guess she goes through a change of when she ages, her race changes. I suppose that would be funny if that happened in real life. and you just, mind you, I'm getting darker, so I don't know what bearing that has on anything, so let me return to this. So the problem was, if you look at, okay, so what things are going to change when you grow up? Well, everything. Like the skeleton's going to change, the muscles are going to change, where the fat is, that's going to change. But here, she's already pretty much, in this one, she's already pretty much fully grown. And then this one, her waist is super skinny because I'm trying to stylize things and I wanted to keep everything stylized. But you see, the ribs here cannot shrink. Here, it's like, what happened here? So that's a big fail. And then here, a similar thing happens, but in reverse. Because, okay, so he's getting older, fine, but wait. So your rib cage is this small, and now suddenly it's this gigantic? That doesn't make any sense. So I was really unhappy with the execution of this, but I was pretty happy with the idea of it. So I decided to give it another shot, and I did this one. And I will post it on DeviantArt in case this is useful reference for anybody. But it's the same thing. Just start at this baby, and then he could go either way. So which way do we want to go? Let's make him a man first, I guess. So he goes here, and then he turns into this. And I'm thinking about, okay, what do I notice with babies? So this is all from imagination. There's no reference used, so I probably messed up a little bit, but I actually think it's a good idea, or it was a good idea for me to do this without reference, because what that does is it really makes me think about stuff and try and imagine, like, okay, so for instance, what does a baby's knees look like? Well, I seem to think that they're very chubby, and so maybe they're hidden in rolls of fat. So I'm thinking about that. Thinking about, okay, how's the head proportion? Well, the eyes are big because the eyes don't really change size throughout your... Well, they don't. The eyeballs don't change size from when you're a baby until when you grow up and die. Hopefully you don't die when you're a baby. You grow up and then you die, but the eyes don't change size. They don't get bigger or smaller. So in a small head, the eyes look gigantic, but in a bigger head, they look normal sized. But the ears and the nose, they do change size. So okay, so you got a baby, and the features seem pushed down because there's more room for the cranium, and there's less of a defined jaw. So okay, so you focus on that. And then the body is very small, right? Compared to the head. The head looks massive. And then as we age, all those things that I mentioned, like the eyes being lower and the cranium being larger in comparison, start to shift. So the eyes move more towards halfway. This isn't quite halfway yet. And so this person still looks very young. And I'm stylizing it, and I'm stylizing it towards my end style. The way I draw guys, so they end up super beefy, and so this kid is probably a little too strong for what he should be, but this isn't realism. But I still think it's important to go through this step, because it shows, like, okay, can I draw things in my style and still have different ages? So he's getting older, and I gave it this hair so that on one side I could just see, like, the head shape and where the hairline is, and then have hair on the other side to see how that looked. So I gave it this asymmetrical hairstyle, which I don't think is very attractive, but it is what it is. And so here, see, he took a big jump, and I guess he started on a steroid regimen, because here he's just crazy, and then here he's an adult, and what's happened is the eyes look smaller, but they're still about the same size in terms of the circle part. The iris and the pupil are about the same size. It's just that I guess actually they're a bit too small on this compared to this. But it would be that there's just more around the eye that makes the eye seem smaller. And so this guy's just completely ripped and yeah, pretty insane. But this is where I tend to draw my characters anyway, although maybe it's a little less exaggerated. And then on the other side, similar things. See, there's not much difference between these two because they're just kids, so there's not that much gender differentiation. What? There's not that thing. And then as you get older, it's like, okay, yeah, so things develop more. And so here, see, breasts develop. And again, keeping the hairstyle, but thinking about it like, oh, okay, so maybe she grew up and her hair got that long, and then she started cutting it and styling it more. So then it's like that. And then she's getting bigger again. And difficult things to think of are like the width of things, like how chubby the legs are, and then when they get longer, how they are. And of course, this is just one person, right? It's not like, oh, everybody looks like this. And not only is it just one person, it's one very stylized person. But I still think some of these things are applicable, and just remembering things. Like even, I don't know, even the things like the belly button. Like trying to think, oh, what does a baby's belly button look like? And then an older kid, and then what happens? And I don't know. I notice with like girls, especially when they work out a lot. I don't know why, but it seems more vertical. Is this a real observation or not? I don't know, but it's something that it seems to be the case. And then anyway, and then she too decided to, jump on the steroids, and in her older age, I suppose she was competing in bodybuilding or something. But yep, there's that. And yeah, I think it's a good exercise for people to do. And now back to some more drawings. And here I wanted to get like this energy of this guy swinging an axe, and so I'm trying to exaggerate it and get that motion. I wouldn't say this is successful by any means, especially this arm, just like, what the heck is going on? But again, experimentation. Because it's something I want. I want to do cool poses with crazy perspective and up shots and down shots and things. So same with this figure, just like flying and stuff, and crazy proportions, and I don't know, just more stuff. More basic stuff, some stick figure things, just playing around, trying some basic shapes, like what if I put rectangles where the calves are, and how would that affect the proportions if I just broke this down into very basic shapes. This is a huge fail, and a lot of these are really bad, and I'm not comfortable sharing them, but I want to be honest, so there you go. Honesty. This, I don't know. What about this? Let's see. Don't really like this one, but hey, this one I kind of like. I like this character design. Really chunky armor, and I guess these would be glowing, I suppose. And what else is there? These slimes. They look like the slimes from Dragon Quest. And some flexible girls. And yep, just more sketching. I guess it's not really one of those days where I felt like I was learning something. Just, oh, I have to get my study out of the way today. And this is interesting because anatomy is one of those things that I find I keep having to revisit. And I'll learn it, and I learn the names of things, and I probably had to learn and relearn it over and over again. I don't know how many times, but a lot since I started studying anatomy. I guess I started when I was 15 or 16. I think I began with Loomis books, and they were just PDFs at the time because the books were out of print, and it's nice that they're back in print now. But there were online PDFs, and I just remember studying from there and then learning on my own through other anatomy books. But it still was like, oh, okay, I hadn't drawn a pelvis in a while, and I realized, like, oh, I kind of don't remember what a pelvis looks like, because it's a pretty complicated shape. And these aren't perfect, but it's sort of this shape. And so I had to look at, I don't remember what I was using. Maybe I was using Le Crochet, the app for the iPad. But anyway, using that. And then applying the skeleton to these exaggerated figures. So first I draw the figure, and then I put the skeleton inside. And make sure you know how to do this. Make sure your figures, yeah, they can be exaggerated as much as you want, but this is the foundations. Having anatomy that works, understanding the skeletal structure. If you aren't at this stage yet, I really think you shouldn't be playing with style too much. You should be learning all this stuff. Now, there's something else I wanted to talk about, and it's that it's not, when it comes to foundations, it's not like you learn it all. You learn your foundations and they're done, and then you're just good for the rest of your life. You're good to go. It's not like that. It's like you learn your foundations to a point, and then you create, and then you'll realize like, oh, you need to know more perspective, or you need to know more anatomy, or even just brushing up on it. And so your whole life, you're always revisiting the foundations. It's not something that you give up and you just completely move beyond. Even now, I learn my values, and so I'm better with values than if I had never learned them. But let's say I haven't painted in a while, my values aren't going to be as good as when I was painting all the time. So this is something I did for a YouTube video. I think it was this one that got on the screen, and these ones didn't. I like this guy. I guess it's Wolverine, or looks like a Wolverine. And which other ones do I like? I don't know. They're all pretty okay, I guess. Again, it's just another exercise. You make a frame first, and then you fit the figure inside. And you'll notice, like, they go outside. They go outside of the frame. And that's because I don't want to draw to the edge. And that's what would happen sometimes, especially when you're starting out. What beginners tend to do, and I used to do this all the time, is you have a big page, right? And you start drawing, maybe you start with a head, and you draw, and you're planning like the figure to fit on this page, but then you realize you're kind of running out of room, and then as you get closer to the edge, you start to constrict your figure. You make them fit the page, which isn't a good idea, because then it just looks unnatural. And so instead, I just draw a frame, and I allow myself to go out of the page. And the way I think of it is almost like I was just walking around with a camera, maybe a video camera or just a regular camera, and I took a photo. Now, I took a photo without really thinking about the composition, and so this is just what I happened to capture, you know? And doing it this way, maybe it doesn't make for the most, how do I say it, designed, like well-designed scenes, but what it does do is it gives your page a feeling of life, of interest, like, oh, this just sort of happened, this exists in a way. And I noticed this when I was studying Craig Mullen's work, where he didn't always draw according to rules. Like, a lot of people have this idea of the rule of thirds as if it's this ultimate truth that you must follow the rule of thirds for effective composition. So for instance, with this Wolverine guy that I liked, well, you would take this frame and you would divide it into thirds, and then at the intersections there would be focal points. So here the face would be maybe moved down here, and the arm is, or the hand is pretty much at one of those thirds, so it's okay. But to me, it starts to look contrived, and I think we have seen so many of these rule of thirds compositions that they start to get a little bit dull. And so when you find somebody who's not quite doing these thirds, it tends to look a bit fresh and more cool than it might. So here, again, I was going back to this idea of the skeleton. So what I did first is, I think I did this first. I don't know if I drew the skeleton or I drew the figure, but whatever the case was, I did this shape inside, and then I transferred that. So it's like, okay, take the area you just drew with a marker, and so it's kind of like an X-ray. You're just seeing inside the figure, and then you put it aside, and then you try and detail out the skeleton. So of course these skeletons are very unnatural. They don't make sense at all, and this is the skeleton of a figure that I'm doing that's so pushed. But what's important is that it can house the skeleton. Like, the skeleton can still fit. It can be stretched or squashed however you want, but it needs to fit. And this is the same with caricature. When you and the same even with I consider it the same with anime, and it bothers me when it's not well done. That you still should be able to fit a skull inside that head. It shouldn't be so so strange that nothing fits inside. So, okay, so here's some more figures, and I like this one a lot. I like this character. He looks cool, and I like the lines, the gesture lines are there. It's pretty nice. And this one's pretty good too. I guess I did this one first, and it looks sort of boring if you think about it. It's like he's just standing there. He's got no gesture to his body. It's very vertical, straight up and down. And so this one, he's got more of this C curve, or maybe an S curve, yeah. If you include his head, it's an S curve. And then, I don't know what this is. And these two, yeah, I mean, the proportions are a bit wonky here. I would push this, if I was to redo that, I'd have the chin here, and I'd push it more like this. But overall, I wouldn't say it's entirely bad. And this too, I'm thinking more about graphic design now, and you know, shapes of color or tone, where they would go. And on this page, I don't think this page is as strong. I like this. This is pretty cool. Another continuous line drawing. And this one is pretty nice as well. I like the design of this jacket thing she's wearing. So, yeah. Some hits and some misses. And I don't know, this one again, just playing around with some marker. I took these two characters and I thought, okay, what if they're in a fighting game? And so these are like the screens, you know, when you're just loading, and in fighting games they have these close-ups, and it will say whatever he has to say, and he'll say whatever he has to say. And anything else, some more silhouettes, and I guess that's it. And then, okay, so these, well, first let's go over the page. Just some boring stuff. Nothing cool, nothing cool. Yeah, I don't like any of this stuff. But this stuff, what it was inspired by, was there's a comic called Inhumans, I guess, and Joe Madureira. I think he did the first 3 episodes, and I downloaded those a while back. And I was looking at this hair. This is one of the pages, and just the way he does hair, it's like, whoa, like, shh, goes everywhere. And I was trying to figure out, like, how does he do that? And I was asking Flavia, and she was telling me, like, about physics and stuff, and I didn't really understand it at the time. So I was inspired, and then I was doing this stuff and just trying to figure it out, like, how does that work? But I didn't nail it here. So it's something that stuck with me, and it's something I was going to revisit. Now, these things, they come from this part, where I saw this dude, and this, again, it's Joe Madureira's work, the same thing in Humans, and I saw this guy, and I thought it's pretty funny, the way he is, and I was thinking, what does his lower body look like? What are his legs doing when he's in this pose? And you can see with Joe Mad, the thing is, everything is so cool. It's just, see, look, this is broken, but it's broken, and each piece is put in such a nice way, like, it's so appealing. The shapes he uses for, see the hair, how cool it is? Do you see that? It's and just, yeah, anyway, so see, even this, the hurricane thing, it's like the shape of that is great, so good, so much appeal. This is why anyway, so okay, thinking about the legs, so back to this. That's what I was doing. I was kind of trying to draw this pose and then come up with legs, and it's like, no, that's not working. No, that's not working. Tried this one. It's like, I tried this one where he sort of hunched over much more. And it was just something I was struggling with that just felt bad. So here, I was doing a bunch of sketches, and I think here I kind of got it right, where it's like, okay, I guess this is more what his legs are doing. But it was something that I wanted to figure out, because his legs are kind of boring, but they still look like they're in anticipation for something. And before, in this one, it's like, oh, the legs are bad. So is the solution that this pose only looks cool from the waist up, and he cropped it in such a way that he's ignoring all the lame-looking parts? And that could be it. And then this one is just because I really like this page. I thought, like, oh, I'll share a page I really like this. So cool. So cool. I feel bad. Look at the smoke coming out of his mouth, and it's even got a cool shape. Even that, even the way he breathes. All this rock face and these fingers and the energy of it, and you really feel like he's gripping. I mean, this is the stuff I just go crazy for, and the amount of appeal and the shapes are so cool. This is what I wish I could do. Wow, cool and great silhouette. See how it's framed and all this stuff. Anyway, so back to my stuff now. I'm trying to do poses and silhouettes, and after I see guys like that, it's just So some people look at my stuff and they think, wow, you're good, but I'm really not. I'm really not. But anyway, okay. So, yeah, I started out with some figures and then just some silhouettes and what looks cool, trying different poses and thinking a lot about foreshortening. I'm doing a bit more foreshortening, especially with poses like this. And some jumping guys. I guess this guy's doing that, you know, when you grab the sword and you're about to attack with it. And yeah. Something I learned about this pose, though, is what I was doing before, is I was drawing a bit more like this, where I was drawing the crotch of the guys too much like a V shape. And it's because I was very into this whole triangles and pointy shapes thing, where I realized you have to make it more, or it looks more appealing to flatten it out. And I was thinking when I did this pose, I don't know, it's going to sound vulgar, but it was this thought of, I don't know where it came from, but I was thinking, with guys, you should have them show off their dick. Like, that's what they want to do, because it's very masculine. It's very, like, well, an action pose where you're being intimidating for a man. Like, sure, there are these things of gender, you know, you shouldn't limit it to masculine or feminine, but there are these traits that pop up just in our subconscious, just from being animals and in our biology. And there's this thing about, you know, men or males, how they tend to show off. They puff up their chest, they show their chest off, and they have their legs wide apart. Not just for this, because it's stability, right? It's, you have a wide stance. It's very stable, but also it's showing off. It's showing everything's open. Everything's like, come at me, bro. Whereas for women, if you want more of a feminine, I don't know, like a sexy pose, a lot of times they're done very open sometimes, but it's not as strong as sometimes when everything is closed more. You know, you're hiding things, you're overlapping forms. And I know this is very generic. This is a stereotype, but it's a stereotype that happens to have successful design, or it works for a reason. And so I'd like to share it with you because that's something I noticed, and it's something that's like, yeah, this works. But at the same time, I would understand if you were like, yeah, that's bullshit and who cares about all this stuff. And that's fine. But it was interesting for me to realize, like, oh yeah, I should, you know, not show your dick as in literally draw in the penis, but this stance of being open. So next episode, I'm going to talk about ribbons, and it's really from that Joe Mad crazy hair thing that I showed you with all the crazy hair, and I said I couldn't figure it out. Well, I'm going to attempt to figure it out. So I hope you'll stick with me for that, and I hope this helped, and thanks for watching.